This is the Club Caddie F&B app. So when you log in, it'll be the same exact login that you use for the Club Caddie desktop for your users. When you click on sign in, after you put in your environment and your username and password, it'll prompt you, it'll tell you your location. You do have the ability to select what role you want to. Based on what role you would have certain access to certain buttons and different permissions. So we're going to select food and beverage, and you're going to select what terminal. Terminals are important because they are tied to specific credit card devices. So in this terminal here, I have an iPad. You'd probably list it as, if you had 5 iPads, you would probably list it as food and beverage iPad 1, 2, 3, etc. And we'd have very specific credit card devices that would be tied to each individual terminal. So we'll click on iPad. The food and beverage app, once it loads, you get to a home screen. The key part of the setup of this is everyone will be required to have a pin lock turned on, because this actually determines who's actually logging in and taking on these individual tickets. So I can have one individual user called like F&B that's just opening up the iPad, but this now is telling me that if I put in my employee number, that I am Grant, I'm the one taking all of these individual tickets. This is where you log in for your PIN code. We do have club notes. These are configured on the back end of Club Caddie, where it allows you to put in very specific details of what's happening on that different day. So today we're talking about chicken quesadilla with a side of chips and guac. We have some upcoming events that we're doing, and then they just put in, don't forget to smile. So these can be configured to show up. You can have multiple notes here, and these can be configured on the back end of Club. But you have a clock in functionality. This is different than your PIN code here to start the actual F&B app. But if you actually need to clock in, you can do that through here. We do some individual iPad settings that you can turn on. If you ever needed to actually get out of Club Caddie altogether, when you're on this screen, you can hit the turn off button. It'll go back to the main screen for you to actually put in your login information for the first time. So we'll put in my employee PIN code, and it opens up into the register screen. The first thing you'll notice is everything is colored in blue. So that's a configuration in the back of Club Caddie that I'm able to say all of my tabs that I'm working on are going to be the color blue. So in case you actually leave the iPad open and someone else grabs it and they want to go into theirs, they can recognize the fact that, hey, I'm not in the right screen. I need to go log into mine. One is I can click on done. And if I go to done, you notice that it goes back into my screen. I'm going to put in a different employee here just so you can see the difference. So I'm going to click employee 444. You'll notice that this person has greens underneath the employee Jason, and he's got 3 tickets that he's already working on. It also brings me back to the employee screen where I can actually log in to the correct employee. All right, so now we're in the main screen and start a tab. We'll go into tables here in just a second, but we have 3 ways to open up a tab. One is going to be a quick tab right here. This is starting a tab with a card, and this is starting a tab with a customer. So I'll start this one just as an example. So if I click on the plus button, and my computer just froze. Can you still see me? Okay, we need to probably stop recording here. It'll start a tab. We have 3 different ways. One's a quick tab, start a tab with a credit card or with a customer or a member. So if I click on this one here, this is just a quick tab. These are going to be your departments, just like you have in the normal desktop mode. So if I click on food, we now have your sub departments. I can click on burgers and sandwiches, for example. One of the biggest changes is now all of your categories are now buttons. So I can click on any of my categories and it will highlight the items that you have in that particular category. So now you can see my cheeseburgers. If I selected maybe the wrong category, I can click on back. Maybe I can go to my Thursday burger menu, and I have different items that are tied to that particular category versus the other one. So in this one, we'll select the hatch green chili burger. Okay. It then goes into, I can select my burger here. If I don't have any modifiers to it, exactly how it looks. I can go back here if I want to go add another item. So if I go back again, I can go back to burgers. Maybe this one, I'm going to select the cheeseburger. And you'll notice that the second change we have is now all of your modifiers live underneath the item on the same screen. We did this to have it be very clean and easy for the servers to be able to know that their modifiers are tied to that individual item. There's no pop-ups on here. You also notice that my cheeseburger is red, and that's because that I have required modifiers and it will not let me do anything with this item until I've met those required modifiers. If I click on meat temps, it says you must select at least one. So I'm going to click medium. And you'll notice that now the item is gray, and I would then have the ability to go ahead and send that to the kitchen if I met that required modifier. If I wanted to continue to add modifiers, I can click on cheeseburger, and this now has all of my toppings that are part of that. I can select either one of those to make a change to this. So let's say if I want lettuce, but I actually wanted to be able to select no lettuce, I can do it. You'll notice that the item now says no lettuce up here. If I wanted extra tomatoes, I can click on extra, and then it pulls up extra tomato over here. If I click on sides, this will give the server a warning that they can select either 0 or max up to 6 sides. And it's giving you an upcharge of $2 after I've made one selection. All of these are configured on the back end of Club Caddie. That the exact same function happens in desktop mode. This just now lets the server know if I was to select French fries as my main side, but I also wanted to select tater tots, that now there's a $2 charge for the tater tots because I've selected French fries and tater tots as part of this $2 upcharge after one selection. One of the things you'll notice up here is that all of our modifiers are now on a kind of a horizontal line. That's just to help with space. So I can see my entrees, and I can have my cheeseburger option, and I can come down and I can see all my modifiers there. If I wanted to go back and to select other items again, I can go back, or I can even select pizzas at this point. Select the pizza. Maybe we'll do a supreme pizza. And I have my toppings, and I can just go ahead and I can say, hey, I'd like to have everything, but maybe I want no mushrooms. But everything else is fine. So they know, the kitchen will know to have pepperoni sausage across the board. That's everything I'm going to have on the pizza. You also will notice that we have coursing involved in this. So you can see that these are all part of our entrees. Let's say they want this cheeseburger potentially to go or for an appetizer or something like that. I can actually click into the item and I can change the course from here. So if I click on the drop down, I can actually mark this down as to go, and I can click on done. And now I have been able to change my course from entrees to go. So now when it sends to the kitchen, it's going to batch all the items that are part of the coursing for entrees in one section, and all my to-go items will be in its own section based on coursing. If I wanted to change the quantity of this, I can do a little plus button here or there. So I can go up or down if I'd like to. If I wanted to change the modifiers for these, if I click on cheeseburger, you'll notice that now I'm in the cheeseburger option that lists all of my modifiers here. There's my coursing. I can mark items down as tax exempt. I can do a discount amount, and I can change my price. You also will notice that there's locks that are next to this. These are all telling you that if you have permissions to be able to do that. It's a setting in Club Caddie that would say you can either do tax exempt or allows you to discount an item or change a price. If you do not have permissions, there will be a lock button next to this, and you don't have the ability to change that. You would have to get a manager come in here and do a manager override. That lock button tells you that you have permissions or don't have permissions to do those individual changes. You also will notice when I clicked into here, I now have the ability to edit my modifiers. So if I come into my meat temps, it tells you what you've already selected. If I did that by mistake and I wanted to go medium rare, I can uncheck that. I can click on medium rare, and now it's changed it to be medium rare versus medium. When I'm done with all those changes, I can click on done. So let's say I'm ready to send this off to the kitchen. I can click on the fire icon. This is the only pop-up that we have in here. So this now allows me to either send all items. I can send it by course, or I can send individual items as needed. I'm just going to then select all items, and I'm going to go ahead and hit send. So now there's a little fire icon that shows what items I've already sent to the kitchen. Let's say someone says, oh, you know what? I need the exact same cheeseburger to go. I can actually come in here now and just click the little 2 button. This will come in here and I can mark down done if I need to make any changes on that. But anyway, I do have the ability, if in a normal case scenario, if I hit the plus button, it does showcase the fact that now I have one item and I have not sent to the kitchen. You'll notice my button is ready for me to send. So if I want to send the other hatch green chili burger, the only item that's now available to send is that one. I can click send. And now I've sent that to the kitchen. Now I've sent two hatch green chili burgers to the kitchen. So let's say these guys, I'm ready to go to my next table. I can go ahead and click on save. This is now listing my table that I'm working on, or my ticket that I'm working on. Let's say I want to go back into this ticket to make any changes or do any final payments, or even make some changes to the ticket. I can click into it again. I can change the guest name. If I want to click on this little button, any of your customers that you have in here, you can actually go ahead and select. We'll select Tiger Woods as our customer here. You'll notice that now Tiger's name is now listed. There's your ticket number. If I wanted to actually tie this to a table, I can click on this. It'll open up our table screen. You can select tables here. I'll show you that here in just a second. If I wanted to give this ticket to another server, I can click on the little refresh button and I can select a different server. And so that gives you an option. And then finally, I can come in here and change just the overall ticket name. So if I wanted to come in here, instead of saying quick one, and let's say I wanted to say this is going to be red shirt, I can come in here and submit. And now I have Tiger as my customer, but I actually have named the ticket red shirt. A couple other things we have on this individual screen before I talk about opening up other tickets is the ability to split by seats. So let's say we have 3 different items here. If I come down here, hit the plus button, and 3 different seats here. Now you'll note a little pop-up that is available. So I can click on seat 1. I can click on seat 2. I can click on seat 3. And let's say that they want to go ahead and pay by individual seats here. I can hit split. And this is now going to create 3 individual orders that would allow me to actually then pay for my seats. So Hatch Green Chili Burger, he's going to pay for 2 of them. I'm underneath seat 1. I can come down now and click on the pay button. And a pop-up comes up where it allows me to then pay this by cash, a Clover, which is going to be your credit card device, a membership ID, a gift card, a custom payment tender if you have that configured in Club Caddie, and then I can charge this to an event as needed. We're just going to do cash on this one. So if I was going to go ahead and pay, and then let's say they're going to pay the exact amount, I can do that, or I can come down, I can either enter the amount that they're paying, or I can do a quick payment. So if I put down 50, this tells you how much you're going to return and change. And then a receipt pops up, and this would allow you to either print the receipts, I can email it to the customer, or I can just go ahead and close this out if I'd like to. Now you can see that seat 1 is now missing from this. And then here's my seat 3. So maybe they're going to wait and hold on for a little bit longer. I can order more stuff to this. So if this cheeseburger to go wanted something else, or if seat 3 was like, hey, I actually want to order some beverages as well, maybe just a quick drink. I'm going to do a domestic pint here, and we'll do some Lagunitas. And then let's say they're ready to go. They finished everything up. I can go and click on pay. Same thing. We'll just pay the exact amount here. And I can go ahead, and I'm not going to email it to now, but there's your receipt. So I'm going to go ahead and click on save. And then here's my ticket that I can, maybe they're going to wait for a little bit longer, and then they might pay it out later. So let's say the next tab, I want to start with an actual customer. I can click on the plus button. This is going to load up your customers here. So we'll have Stuart. He's going to be the one that's going to be ordering here. He's a customer, a member of our club. So now we've opened up a tab with him. So now if I click into Stuart, now I can go ahead and open up some food just like we did before. So we'll click on entrees. We'll do Taco Tuesday. We'll do 6 street tacos. So now this is going to allow me to select. So we're going to do, I don't know, 3 steak, a shrimp, steak, and a shrimp and a pork. Something like that. So let's say he's not ready to order anything yet. So we're just going to click on save. Now I'm going to go to my next table. Or let's say now I'm going to actually go to tables to order some tickets. So I can click on the table layout here. So now that we're in the table layouts, this is again built in the Club Caddie app. And you have a lot of functionality that you can do. You can zoom into certain sections, but all this is configurable. You can have multiple rooms in here. So I can have one for a bar. I can have one for a patio. You can search between the different rooms by clicking here. In this example, I only have one food and beverage layout set up. I can start a table here. So let's say we're going to start S3 here. I can click on that. And just like I did before, you'll notice that a table now has S3. We'll go ahead and let's just do some drinks here. So let's do some glass of red wine. We'll do a couple of Cabernets. And let's go back into this one. We'll do a Pinot. Just for example, if I was to go ahead and click on save here, I now have my ticket created. You can tell that this is actually done by a table because it's underneath the S3. And if I go back into the table layout, you will notice now that I actually have the color of the table. This is showing that Grant actually took on that table. So if I was to change the users here, so if I went back into this, I'm going to open up all my tabs underneath Jason. and I went to tables, you can see that I can see that's Grant's table because it's blue. And if I went and selected S and did some orders here, or seltzer here, click on save and go back into the tables. Now you can see that's my table because it's listed as a, so again, that's the reason that it's really important to assign colors to individual servers, because this is going to now be an interactive table layout to figure out which server has different tables throughout your restaurant. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to the Grant employee. And then you can see that there's my table. If I wanted to switch this over to Jason, I can grab this here. I can move it to Jason here, update settings. You'll notice that it actually goes away underneath my tickets. And if I go back into the table layouts, now Jason has both green tables here for S3 and S. So a lot of functionality that you can do inside the table layouts, which is nice. If I tick tables again, it goes me back into my open tickets and allows me to open up any tickets. Again, the purpose of it is I just see my tickets that I'm working on. When I'm done at the end of the day, let's go ahead and we'll close out these last tickets here. So if I click on pay, and we'll just keep it simple, $20. Let's actually member charge this one. So this is an example. We'll collect a customer here. We'll make that to Grant here. Grant the server and the customer here. So we're going to click on pay. I'm going to charge that to my account. I'm going to click on membership ID. You'll notice that it automatically pulls in a selected member of Grant. If I needed to select a member, I could also change that by going here. If I click on pay, this has a new tip function, so it automatically highlights the fact that I can add a tip to this. So if I wanted to add 20%, I can select that. Really clean and easy for the server to know that this was the total amount. They've added $13.60, so they're now grand total of $21.62. And then you can see here that they do want to do a custom tip. This would actually be customer facing, so you would actually give the iPad to the customer at this time, and the customer can select this. So then they can put in, submit, and finalize. And then they can actually come in here and they can actually sign their name for the additional membership charge if they wanted to, and then I can hit submit. And then that gives me the receipt. Again, I can either email this or I can print this as needed. And then I finalize that transaction. So now I'm done at the end of the day. All my tickets are done. We now have a new tab here called Close Tickets. Any ticket that has a either credit card tied to it, a member charge, or something that would have a tip involved, it's going to let you know that you actually have that ticket finalized because it's going to mark down as closed. If you happen to print a tip on a receipt and they have not finalized it, you're going to see a tip incomplete as part of this transaction. This allows you at that point to come in here before you close your drawer. I could potentially click on any of these buttons that might have a ticket tied to a member or a credit card. And if I haven't completed that tip, you can click onto it and it'll actually prompt you to add a tip right from here. I can also reprint the receipts, or if I needed that transaction, I could do that right from here as well. Again, voiding would be permission based if you had access to be able to void that transaction or not. We wanted this to be very easy to be able to quickly add a tip to that individual ticket. Once you've added that tip, it will actually mark it down as closed. And then I would have the ability from that point, I could actually close out my drawer. So I could click on the icon. If I went to the back here and I came into, this would actually allow me to then close my drawer. It's not going to allow me right now because I have too many unclosed tickets, but it would allow me at that point to actually close my drawer. The idea of it is that we wanted to eliminate a lot of the human error. I wanted them to force them to close all their tickets, making sure all their tips were completed, that they've reviewed all of their tickets, and then it would allow them to close their drawer at the end of the night by coming into the day end close. It would then, I can select actually who's the one closing this one. So we'll just say it's me, and then I can come in and I enter the amount of checks that I have. And then if I click or enter cash amount, this would allow me to officially say, this is what I'm dropping for my cash at the end of the night. I have no idea what I collected in cash. So we're just going to make up a bunch of money here. And then I can go ahead and click on save. Then I can hit close my day. Are you sure you want to close the terminal? I'd say, okay. And then I have an excess. If we had a printer tied to this individual, it would then print a receipt with your day end closing. You would drop your cash. And then at that point, I can actually come into back and I can actually close out my drawer for the entire day by just clicking on done. And then I can hit turn off. And now I'm back to the next person who wants to log into the next day.